Good day, one and all, and you're all very welcome again to this week's technical session of the CNPS. Now, those of you who have been following this series of talks given by Vladimir Nekhutilo will have realized that, as I have, I think, that it's quite intriguing how this model, this WUM model, seems to range in applicability from the very, very distant cosmological universe right down. We've looked at the mechanics of the Milky Way, and we've looked at the solar system. Now today, intriguingly, we're going to be looking at the Earth. So I had a brief chat with Vladimir just before starting, and he just has repeated, I suppose, something that probably many of us are aware, that we actually know very little about the Earth. And I understand that the map we have of the moon, the surface of the moon, and the details on the moon is actually more accurate than what we have of Africa. We don't know every single geographical aspect of Africa, but we pretty well do of the moon. And yet we're all waiting agog to see what the result of applying the WM model to the Earth, to our own Earth, is. We've just noted that we're in part 6 already of this 8-part session, so we're motoring along. But I would ask you to stick with it, and I'm sure you are probably getting a better feel than maybe at the very beginning. You're seeing the parts come together. As usual, I'm at your service. I mean, if people have any particular requests, they can put them in the comments. People going through Facebook or YouTube, and we can deal with them. If they have any very specific questions, you might indicate that this is a question for Vladimir, so I don't miss it, because otherwise I might think it's merely chats between participants. So we can do that, and we'll deal with those. We'll try to highlight some of the main points. Funnily enough, I don't see anybody in there, although we started in the green room now. We have some spaces in the green room, and you do know we have a maximum of 10. So we do ask that people don't come in unless they're regulars and invited. In fact, I just remembered I must put the actual link in, because I'll just copy the link and I'll post it into the chat, because some systems actually, some computer systems, once they're in the StreamYard, for some unknown reason, they seem to recall the last session we had, even though you try to erase all memory and so on. So if you go into the link we gave, the generic link, it brings you to last week's. So I'm just going to give you now or give everybody rather. There it is. So, okay, so we'd expect some more people in. We seem to be quite free today, so there's no problem in getting into the green room. But if you're not a regular contributor, or you don't actually need to speak, it probably is sufficient to go through the social media. Okay, and we'll then perhaps have an opportunity of speaking one-to-one to Vladimir through the green room and so on, and maybe having a to and fro chat just for a short period of time. As you know, there's 2 hours devoted to the talk. It's roughly 50-50, so an hour for the talk and an hour for discussion. But that's not very definite. We can easily have an hour. I think last time we had a little more. We can have an hour and 15 minutes talk. That's fine. Sometimes people finish in less than an hour, 15 minutes. I don't think Vladimir does. I think it's good to take the hour personally, but there's no fixed. If you want to take 15 minutes more, if you want to take 50 minutes less, if you want to take 20 minutes more, that's fine. That's all fine. So I'm going to, okay, I'm seeing some people coming in. I'm going to add Vladimir to the stage and wish him a very good day again. It's very early morning in California, where Vladimir is based, and yet he greeted me immediately with the statement "Good afternoon," because he knows it's sort of coming to mid-afternoon here. Okay, so Vladimir, we had a tiny problem with the computer last time, which took us about 4 minutes to resolve. But I think you've resolved it. I think it shouldn't even take us this time. It's just a question of your sharing your screen, because I understand that once again you've gone to the trouble of having your complete lecture in written form, which you're going to project.
Okay, everything is okay today. No problem.
Okay, I'm fussing. Everything will be okay. So the only thing is, I just want to, what I normally do, just to remind you again for the 6th time, I make sure that you've projected things correctly. I then remove myself and I make myself silent and everything. And then after a moment or two, I just get rid of your photograph, but I click the option that you have to remain audible.
Okay, it's a good idea.
Right. So can you project just before I go, maybe, just to make sure everything's all right? Oh yeah, it's come, because I then have to put it up. I'm going to leave you now, which means my any contributions of mine will be silent unless I reverse what I've done. So if you do need me, just shout for me.
Okay.
So the floor is totally yours now, Vladimir.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Let's continue. Today we will talk about Earth. Universe created matter. In my 4 previous presentations, I followed the standard paradigm dark matter that is not quite right for hypersphere world universe model, in which the world consists of particles of ordinary matter, protons, electrons, photons, and neutrinos. On the other hand, there are particles created by the universe. Universe created particles of a new kind of universe created matter. In the 5th presentation, I introduced a new term, UC particles, which have following characteristics: UC fermions or bosons, rest energies, weak interaction, and self-annihilation, like Majorana fermions. Ordinary particles are a byproduct of UC particles self-annihilation. It is easy to switch from dark D matter to universe-created UC matter. In this table, a basic energy unit E0 equals to 70 megaelectron volts. H is the Planck constant, C is the gravity dynamic constant, A is a basic size unit, and alpha is a dimensionless Rydberg constant. These particles are dark when astronomers observe the world with telescopes only in visible spectrum. The contemporary astronomy allows us to observe the world in wavelengths from radio waves up to gamma rays. Then they are not dark at all. The first known binary system was Cygnus X1, that is typically the brightest persistent source of hard X-rays with energies up to 60 kiloelectron volts. In 2000, Minchin et al. Discovered binary galaxy system Virgo HI21 with NGC 4254, which has the 21 centimeter emission. 2 kinds of matter have different origin of radiations. Ordinary matter radiates electromagnetic waves from radio waves up to X-rays by electrons outside nuclei. Lawrence Livermore scientists probed nitrogen gas at X-ray energies of up to 8 kiloelectron volts, the highest X-ray energy ever used at an X-ray free electron laser. UC matter radiates gamma rays, which emitted by nuclei as a result of self-annihilation of UC particles, with rest energies covering 18 orders of magnitude, from tera electron volt to microelectron volt. Introduction. Every year on April 22, we have celebrated Earth Day and the beautiful planet we call home. Earth Day, established in 1970, has been used to highlight our planet's environment, challenges, and raise awareness of the importance of protecting our world for future generations. To provide the protection of our planet, we should explain Earth's environmental challenges to the best of our knowledge in frames of contemporary geophysics. In this presentation, we give a short overview of the developed womb and pay particular attention to the principal role of UC matter in the Earth's life. Below, we discuss different aspects of the Earth, a condition of early Earth before the beginning of life on it, internal structure, the 660 kilometers boundary that we named geomagma with electrical conductivity, random variations of Earth's rotational speed on a daily basis, origin of moon, expanding Earth, internal heating, faint young sun paradox, geocorona and planetary coronas. The model revealed the fact that the sun and the moon activity causes the geomagma activity, and as a consequence, random variations of Earth's rotational speed by the periodically varying sun's and moon's magnetic field. Essence of womb. Principal points of womb are as follows. The finite world is a 3D hypersphere of the 4D nucleus of the world, which is a 4D bubble expanding in the fourth spatial dimension. All points of the hypersphere are equivalent. There are no preferred centers or boundaries of the world. The universe is responsible for creation of UC matter in the 4D nucleus of the world. UC particles carry new UC matter into the world. Luminous matter is a byproduct of UC particles' self-annihilation. UC matter plays a central role in creation and evolution of all macro objects. Womb introduces dark, invisible epoch spanning from beginning of the world 1422 billion years ago for 0.45 billion years, and luminous epoch ever since 13.77 billion years. We emphasize that absolute age of the world, 14.22 billion years, is determined by the experimentally measured value of gravitational parameter g. Transition from that epoch to luminous epoch is due to an explosive volcanic rotational fission of overspinning UC matter supercluster cores and self-annihilation of UC particles. Womb is the only cosmological model in existence that is consistent with the fundamental law of conservation of angular momentum. The medium of the world, consisting of protons, electrons, photons, neutrinos, and UC particles, is an active agent in all physical phenomena in the world. Time, space, and gravitation are closely connected with the impedance, gravitomagnetic parameter, and energy density of the medium. Macro objects of the world possess the following properties. Their cores are made up of UC particles. They contain other particles, including UC particles and ordinary particles, in shells surrounding cores. Macro objects' cores are essentially UC matter reactors fueled by UC particles. All chemical elements, compositions, substances, rocks, etc., are produced by macro objects themselves as the result of UC particles' self-annihilation in their cores. Womb is based on two parameters only: dimensionless Rydberg constant alpha, later named fine structure constant, and time varying quantity q, that is in fact the Dirac large number. Early Earth. Formation of Earth. The oldest material found in solar system is dated to 4.568 billion years. That is almost equal to 457 billion years. In the article, The Age of the Earth in the 20th Century, a problem mostly solved, Dalrymple studied whether this age represents the age of the Earth's accretion, of core formation, or of the material from which the Earth formed is not yet known, but recent evidence suggests it may approximate the latter material from which the Earth. In whom UC matter core of the Earth was born as the result of the explosive volcanic rotational fission of the Sun's UC matter core 4.557 billion years ago. Origin of Moon. The standard giant impact hypothesis suggests that a Mars-sized body called Theia impacted the proto-Earth, creating a large debris ring around Earth, which then accreted to form the Moon. Establishing the age of the Moon is critical to understanding solar system evolution and the formation of rocky planets, including Earth. In 2023, Greer et al. In the article 4.46 Giga-Ammon Zircon's Anchored Chronology of Lunar Magma Ocean have dated the Moon to at least 446 billion years old. We stress that 110 million years is not enough for the formation of Moon in accordance with giant impact hypothesis. In whom UC matter core of the Moon was born as the result of the explosive volcanic rotational fission of the Earth's UC matter core 4.57 billion years ago. Continental crust of Earth. The long-favored paradigm for the development of continental crust is one of progressive growth beginning at about 4 billion years ago. To test this hypothesis, Harrison et al. Measured initial ratio of hafnium isotopes values of 401 to 437 billion years, detrital zircons from Western Australia. They obtained results that support the view that crust had formed by 4.5 billion years ago and was rapidly recycled into the mantle. Compare with the age of the Moon, at least 446 billion years old. The same numbers. Earth's atmosphere and oceans were formed by volcanic activity and outgassing. Most of the gas was carbon dioxide and water vapor that condensed into oceans. In this model, atmospheric greenhouse gases kept the oceans from freezing when the newly forming sun had only 70% of its current luminosity. According to a Lumen Learning Earth Science, scientists have developed a number of hypotheses about how the oceans formed. Though these hypotheses have changed over time, one idea now has the wide support of Earth scientists, called the volcanic outgassing theory. This means that water vapor given off by volcanoes erupting over millions of billions of years cooled and condensed to form Earth's oceans. In the article Uncovering Mysteries of Earth's Primeval Atmosphere 4.5 billion years ago, An Emergence of Life, a leading scientist Saucy wrote, 4.5 billion years ago, Earth would have been hard to recognize. Instead of the forests, mountains, and oceans that we know today, the surface of our planet was covered entirely by magma, the molten rocky material that emerges when volcanoes erupt. This much the scientific community agrees on. What is less clear is what the atmosphere at the time was like. In the article, Redox State of Earth's Magma Ocean and its Venus-like early atmosphere, Saucy et al. Found that after cooling down from the magma state, the young Earth had an atmosphere that was slightly oxidizing, with carbon dioxide as its main constituent, as well as a nitrogen and some water. The surface pressure was also much higher, almost 100 times that of today, and the temperature was much higher due to the hot surface. These characteristics made it more similar to the atmosphere of today's Venus than to that of today's Earth. Based on their results, the author made a conclusion that a popular theory of the emergence of life on Earth, in which lightning strikes interact with certain gases, notably ammonia and methane, to create amino acids, the building blocks of life, seems much less likely. The necessary gases were simply not sufficiently abundant. Origin of life. Dodd et al. In the article Evidence for Early Life in Earth's Oldest Hydrothermal Vent Precipitates wrote, although it is not known when or where life on Earth began, some of the earliest habitable environments may have been submarine hydrothermal vents. Here we describe putative fossilized microorganisms that are at least 3.77 billion and possibly 4.28 billion years old, and ferruginous sedimentary rocks interpreted as a seafloor hydrothermal vent-related precipitates. Collectively, these observations are consistent with an oxidized biomass and provide evidence for biological activity in submarine hydrothermal environments more than 3.77 billion years ago. The proposed concept of UC matter reactors in UC matter cores of all gravitationally rounded macro objects successfully explain all these hypotheses and results for the early Earth. The upper mantle with crust are due to UC matter core volcanic eruptions of the homemade compositions, including magma, which produced as the result of the self-annihilation of UC particles in the core. It explains the result that continental crust had formed by 4.5 billion years ago. Earth's atmosphere and oceans were formed by a volcanic activity and outgassing of UC matter core. The thickness of the upper mantle with crust is growing in time. The early Earth had a smaller thickness than it is in the present time. Hence, the temperature of the Earth's surface was higher than its calculated temperature based on the sun's output at that time. It kept the oceans from freezing when the newly forming sun had only 70% of its current luminosity. The biological activity in submarine hydrothermal environments more than 3.77 billion years ago can be explained by a generation of all kinds of chemical elements and compositions produced into the Earth's UC matter core. Modern Earth's internal structure. Information about the Earth's structure mostly comes from the analysis of seismic waves. According to the Standard Model, the Earth has the following layers: an outer silicate solid crust with solid mantle a liquid outer core and solid inner core. The inner core is believed to be composed of an iron-nickel alloy with some other elements. The temperature at the inner core surface is estimated to be approximately 5700 Kelvin. The liquid outer core surrounds the inner core and is believed to be composed of iron mixed with nickel and trace amounts of lighter elements. Although seismic waves propagate through the core as if it was solid, measurements cannot distinguish between a perfectly solid material from an extremely viscous one. Some scientists have therefore considered whether there may be slow convection in the inner core as is believed to exist in the mantle. That could be an explanation for the anisotropy detected in seismic studies. Main characteristics of the Earth layers are presented in Table 2. Let's take a look at the structure of the Earth. An inner core and outer core that extend from the center to about 55% of the Earth's radius with density ρ maximum 13.1, ρ minimum 90.9 thousandths kilogram per cubic meter. Lower mantle spanning from the outer core to about 90% of the Earth's radius below 660 kilometers with density ρ maximum 5.6 and ρ minimum 3.4 thousandths kilogram per cubic meter. Upper mantle spanning from the lower mantle to about 99% of Earth's radius below 35 kilometers with density ρ maximum 4.4 and ρ minimum 3.4 thousandths kilogram per cubic meter. There is a seismicity cut of 660 kilometer discontinuity. Ρ minimum 3.4 for lower mantle is less than ρ maximum 4.4 thousandths kilogram per cubic meter for upper mantle. The Earth's core is rotating faster than its surface by about 0.0305 degrees per year. Inner core, outer core, and lower mantle contain most of the Earth's mass. In our view, the inner core and outer core and lower mantle contain most of the Earth's mass. In our view, the inner core, outer core, and lower mantle are the parts of the Earth's liquid matter core which have different viscosities from extremely high values for the inner core going down to 660 kilometers boundary between the lower mantle and upper mantle with crust. It is worth noting that solar core rotates 3.8 times faster than the surrounding envelope. The fact that the Earth's core and solar core rotate faster than surrounding envelope, despite high viscosity of the internal medium, is intriguing. Worm explained this phenomenon through the absorption of UC particles by Earth's core and solar core over time tau. UC particles supply not only additional mass proportional to tau in power 1.5, but also additional angular momentum proportional to tau squared. UC matter core irradiates products of UC particle self-annihilation, which carry away excessive angular momentum. The solar wind is the result of this mechanism. The 660 kilometers boundary, geomagma. Wu, Ni, and Irving investigated scattered seismic waves traveling inside the Earth to constrain the roughness of the Earth's 660-kilometer boundary. The researchers were surprised by just how rough the boundary is, rougher than the surface layer that we all live on. Their statistical model didn't allow for precise height determinations, but there is a chance that these mountains are bigger than anything on the surface of the Earth. Their roughness was not equally distributed either. Just as the crust's surface has smooth ocean floors and massive mountains, the 660-kilometer boundary has rough areas and smooth patches. Lacking formal name for this layer, the researchers simply call it the 660 kilometers boundary. Mark and Scoff, in the article Volume Collapse Instabilities in Deep Focus Earthquakes, a shear source nucleated and driven by pressure, explains the mystery of the long-standing observations in deep focus earthquakes 400-700 kilometers by symmetry breaking instabilities in high pressure phase in transformation. According to Wum, the 660 kilometers boundary is a boundary between Earth's UC matter core and upper mantle with crust, which were produced by UC matter core during 4.57 billion years. The deep focus earthquakes are connected with random mass ejections happening at the 660 kilometers boundary as the result of UC particles self-annihilation in the UC matter core. All chemical elements, compositions, substances of the Earth, including protons, electrons, multi-charged ions, isotopes, Gallium-40, uranium-238, thorium-232, plutonium-244, are produced within UC matter reactor inside of the Earth as the result of UC particles self-annihilation. They concentrate into the 660 kilometer boundary and arrive in the crust of the Earth due to convection currents in the mantle, carrying heat and all chemical products from the interior to the planet's surface. Earth's magnetic field. According to Wikipedia, the magnetic North Pole is a point on the surface of Earth's northern hemisphere at which the planet's magnetic field points vertically downward. There is only one location where this occurs, near but distinct from the geographic North Pole. The geomagnetic North Pole is the northern antipodal pole of an ideal dipole model of the Earth's magnetic field. North magnetic pole moves over time. In 2001, it was determined lie west of Ellesmere Island in northern Canada. In 2009, it was moving toward Russia at between 55 and 60 kilometers per year. In 2013, the distance between the North Magnetic Pole and the geographic North Pole was approximately 800 kilometers. Its southern hemisphere counterpart is the South Magnetic Pole. Since Earth's magnetic field is not exactly symmetric, the North and South magnetic poles are not antipodal, meaning that a straight line drawn from one to the other does not pass through the geometric center of Earth. In 1822, Ampere proposed that internal currents are responsible for Earth's magnetism. In 1990, Larmor proposed that a dynamo might be generating the field. Elsesser considered a father of the presently accepted dynamo theory as an explanation of the Earth's magnetism. During 44-47, Elsesser published papers describing the first mathematical model for the origin of the Earth's magnetic field. He conjectured that it could be generated by electric currents in the conductive iron alloys of its core created by convection currents due to heat escaping from the core, where it came from. The Earth and most of the planets in solar system, as well as the Sun and other stars, all generate magnetic fields through the motion of electrically conducting fluids. At the dawn of the 21st century, numerical modeling of the Earth's magnetic field has not been successfully demonstrated. Initial models are focused on field generation by convection in the planet's fluid outer core. It was possible to show the generation of a strong Earth-like field when the model assumed a uniform core surface temperature and exceptionally high viscosity for the core fluid. Computations which incorporated more realistic parameter values yield magnetic fields that were less Earth-like, but indicated that model refinements may ultimately lead to an accurate analytical model. Slight variations in the core surface temperature in the range of a few millikelvins result in significant increases in convective flow and produce more realistic magnetic fields. Millikelvins fluctuations, it's not the physics when you have 5700 kilograms. Sorry. The moon has an external magnetic field of less than 0.2 nanotesla, or less than about 100,000th that of Earth. Contemporary view is that the moon doesn't have a global dipolar magnetic field and only has crustal magnetization, likely acquired early in the history when a dynamo was still operating. Early in its history, 4 billion years ago, its magnetic field strength was likely close to that of Earth today. This early dynamo field apparently expired by about 1 billion years ago after the lunar core had crystallized. The sun's magnetic field explained the following way. The radiative zone and the convective zone are separated by a transition layer, the tachocline. This is the region where the sharp regime change between the uniform rotation of the radiative zone and the differential rotation of the convection zone results in a large shear between the two, a condition where successive horizontal layers slide past one another. Presently, it is hypothesis that a magnetic dynamo of solar dynamo within this layer generates the sun's magnetic field. It is worth noting that solar core rotates 3.8 times faster than the envelope, and the Earth's core is rotating faster than its surface by about 0.3-0.5 degrees per year, which can explain the large shear. According to whom, all gravitational rounded macro objects have the same internal structure. You see matter cores, different envelopes, and intermediate layers between them, electrical currents of which define their magnetic fields. In case of Milky Way galaxy, it is electron-positron shell, Sun, the tachocline, Earth, the 660 kilometers boundary that we named geomagma, Moon, a boundary between core and mantle that we named lunar magma. Random variations of Earth's rotational speed. Jones and Bicos in the article Earth is in a Hurry in 2020 wrote, when highly accurate atomic clocks were developed, they showed that the length of a mean solar day can vary by milliseconds. These differences are obtained by measuring the Earth's rotation with respect to distant astronomical objects. It turned out that the variations of the day length throughout 2020 were in the range 1.62 milliseconds minus 146 milliseconds. The speed of the Earth's rotation varies constantly because of the complex motion of its molten core, oceans, and atmosphere, plus other effects. In Figure 1, depicted variation of day length throughout 2020. The length is shown as the difference in milliseconds between Earth's rotation and 86,400 seconds. It is worth noting that there is some kind of periodicity of peaks on Figure 1. We used the data obtained by Jones, Bickers, and Hawken and got variation of day length throughout 2023, depicted on Figure 2. As a result, we found similar peaks with a periodicity 13.66 Earth days, which equals to the half of Moon's sidereal rotation period, fixed star to fixed star, 27.32 Earth days. It means that a lunar magma, electrical currents of which define the Moon's magnetic field, influences geomagma with electrical conductivity, and as a result, changes the Earth's day length. In frames of room, random variations of the Earth's rotational speed on a daily basis can be explained by variations in the activity of the Earth's UC reactor and geomagma. As a result of UC particle self-annihilation, random mass ejections are happening. During a time of high UC reactor activity, the Earth's rotational speed is lower, long days, due to increase of the Earth's moment of inertia. When random mass ejections are less frequent, the Earth's moment of inertia is decreasing. We observe short days. On Figure 3, we can see deviation of a day length from sea-based day since 1962 to 2019. You see, it's no usual behavior, usual variations of a day length. On Figure 4, presented deviation of average day length from sea-based day since 1973 to 2023. Let us analyze the proposed mechanism. The relative change of the day length throughout 2020 and 2023 was about 2 multiplied 10 to the minus 8. Hence, the relative change of the Earth's moment of inertia must be about the same value. If a layer of mass m at radius r will shift on Ash, the relative change of the Earth's moment of inertia will be about 10 to the minus 8, where m and r capitals are the mass and radius of the Earth respectively. In case of the atmosphere, ratio m to mass of Earth, it's about 10 to the minus 6, and Ash over r is about 10 to the minus 2. It means that Ash about 64 kilometers. In case of the oceans, with ratio of mass about 10 to the minus 4, Ash over r is about 10 to the minus 4 either. It means that Ash 640 meters. In case of the geomagma with ratio about 10 to the minus 5, Ash over r about 10 to the minus 3, it means that Ash is about 6.4 kilometers. The estimated values of the masses and shifts shows that there is no way to explain the random variations of the speed of the Earth's rotation by the complex motions of oceans and atmosphere as it was supposed by Jones and Bickers. They can be explained by random mass ejection in the geomagma. It is worth noting that Since 1973 to 2023, the average deviation of the average day length dropped down from 2.7 milliseconds to 1.1 millisecond. Take a look, 2.7, 0.1 millisecond. We explain this drop the following way. You see particles supply additional angular momentum proportional to tau squared. Relative energy Earth's angular momentum for 50 years is about 2.2 10 to the minus 8, where AE is the Earth's age. It means that the average length of the day will be shorter, but this value 1.9 millisecond, which is in a good agreement with experimentally observed 2.6 milliseconds. The maximum activity of UC matter reactor and geomagma and maximum of the average day length were observed at 2016, 2006, 1995, 1983, and 1972, which are about 11 years apart. Take a look, 2016, 2006, 1995, 1983, 1972. It is interesting that the full solar cycle is actually a 22-year phenomenon. The sunspot cycle happens because of this pole flip. North becomes south and south becomes north approximately every 11 years. Some 11 years later, the poles reverse again back to where they started. The sun behaves similarly over the course of each 11-year cycle, no matter which pole is on top. On a figure 2 presented the yearly average sunspot number for a period 400 years. Consider that the last minimum sunspot number was at 2010, this point. And the next one was at 2021. Hence, the next maximum sunspot number was at 2016. That corresponds to the maximum of the Earth's average day length. 2016. It means that the maximum sun activity at 2016, 26, 1995, 1983, and 1972 causes the maximum geomagma activity and maximum of the average day length. As a conclusion, we revealed Sun-Earth-Moon interaction that is responsible for large-scale years and small-scale days variations of the Earth's day length defined by Sun and the Moon. Mysteries of Earth explained by Wum. Expanding Earth. This hypothesis asserts that the position and relative movement of continents is at least partially due to the volume of the Earth increasing. In 1888, Yarkovsky suggested that some sort of ether is absorbed within Earth and transformed into new chemical elements, forcing the celestial bodies to expand. The thesis of Hilgenberg and Tesla were based on absorption and transformation of ether energy into normal matter, how it's close to Wum model. In spite of recognition of plate tectonics, scientific consensus has rejected any significant expansion or contraction of Earth. In Wum, the Earth's UC matter core absorbs new UC particles, and its size is increasing in time proportional to root square of time. there is an expansion of UC matter core, and hence the upper mantle with crust is stretching out. Due to UC particle self-annihilation, new chemical elements are created inside of the upper mantle with crust. As a result, the relative movement of continents is happening. Internal heating. The analysis of the sun's heat for planets in solar system yields the effective temperature of the Earth of 255 Kelvin. The actual mean surface temperature of Earth is 288 Kelvin. The higher actual temperature of the Earth is due to the heat generated internally by the planet itself. According to the Standard Model, the Earth's internal heat is produced mostly through radioactive decay. The major heat-producing isotopes within the Earth are Gallium-40, uranium-238, and thorium-232. The mean global heat loss from Earth is 44.2 terawatts. The Earth's uranium has been thought to be produced in one or more supernova over 6 billion years ago. Radiogenic decay. It can be estimated from the flux of geoneutrinos that are emitted during radioactive decay. The COMLAT collaboration combined precise measurements of the geoneutrino flux from the Kamioka detector, Japan, with existing measurements from the Borexino detector, Italy. They found that decay of uranium-238 and thorium-232 together contribute about 20 terawatts to the total heat flux from the Earth to space. The neutrinos emitted from the decay of Gallium-40 contribute 4 terawatts. Based on the observations, the COMLAT collaboration made a conclusion that heat from radioactive decay contributes about half of Earth's total heat flux. Plutonium-244, with half-life of 80 million years, is not produced in significant quantities by the nuclear fuel cycle because it needs very high neutron flux environments. Any plutonium-244 present in the Earth's crust should have decayed by now. Nevertheless, Hoffman in 1971 obtained the first indication of plutonium-244 present existence in nature. In whom all chemical products of the Earth, including isotopes and plutonium-244, are produced by UC matter reactor inside of the Earth during 4.57 billion years and are in fact homemade. They are the result of UC fermion-1 with 1.3 tera-electron volt rest energy, self-annihilation, compared to the proton rest energy 938 mega-electron volts. It's more than 3 orders of magnitude less. The products arrive in the crust of the Earth due to convection currents in the mantle carrying heat and isotopes from the interior to the planet's surface. As a conclusion, the internal heating of all gravitational rounded macro objects of solar system is due to UC particle self-annihilation in their UC matter cores made up of UC particles. The amount of energy produced due to this process is sufficiently high to heat up macro objects. New UC particles freely penetrate through the entire macro objects in the lobe, get absorbed into UC matter cores, and continuously support UC particles' self-annihilation. Fate-Young-Sun paradox. It describes the apparent contradiction between observations of liquid water early in Earth's history and the astrophysical expectation that the sun's output would be only 70% as intense during that epoch as it is during a modern epoch. The early Earth would be expected to be completely frozen, but the early Earth seems to have had liquid water. The issue was raised by Sagan and Mullin in 1972. An unresolved question is how a climate suitable for life was maintained on Earth over the long time scale despite the variable solar output. Proposed resolutions of this paradox have taken into account greenhouse effects, changes to planetary albedo, etc. One of the consequences of WUM holds that all stars will fade in the past. As their cores absorb new UC matter, size of macro objects, cores, and their luminosity are increasing in time, size proportional to root square of time, and luminosity proportional to tau, respectively. Taking the age of the world, 14.2 billion years, and the age of solar system, 4.6 billion years, it is easy to find that the young sun's output was 67% of what it is today. Literature commonly refers to the value of 70%. In frames of WUM, the upper mantle whiskers are due to UC matter core activity, a self-annihilation of UC particles in the UCM core. As a result of this activity, the thickness of the upper mantle whiskers is growing in time. The early Earth had a smaller thickness than it is in the present time. Hence, the temperature of the Earth's surface was higher than its calculated temperature based on the sun's output at the time. Geocorona and planetary corona. The geocorona is the luminous part of the outmost region of the Earth's atmosphere that extends to at least 640,000 kilometers from the Earth. It is seen primarily via far ultraviolet light from sun that is scattered by neutral hydrogen. Far ultraviolet photons in geocorona have been observed out to a distance of approximately 100,000 kilometers from the Earth. The first high-quality and wide field of view image of Earth's corona of 240,000 kilometers was obtained by Hisaki, the first interplanetary micro spacecraft. Hisaki acquired spectral images in the range 52 to 148 nanometers, deep UV, of the atmospheres of planets from Earth's orbit and has provided quasi-continuous remote sensing observations of the geocorona since 2013. The most popular explanation of this geocoronal emission is the scattering of solar far ultraviolet photons by exospheric hydrogen. X-rays from Earth's geocorona were first detected by Chandra X-ray Observatory in 1999. X-rays were observed in the range of energies 0.08 to 10 kilo-electron volts. The main mechanism explaining geocorona X-rays is that they are caused by collisions between neutral atoms in the geocorona with carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen ions that are streaming away from the sun in the solar wind. The process is called charge exchange, since an electron is exchanged between neutral atoms in geocorona and ions in the solar wind. X-rays for planets were also observed by Chandra in 2012. According to NASA, The X-rays from Venus and to some extent the Earth are due to the fluorescence of solar X-rays striking the atmosphere. Fluorescence X-rays from oxygen atoms in the Martian atmosphere probe heights similar to those of Venus. A huge Martian dust storm was in progress when the Chandra observations were made. The intensity of the X-rays didn't change during the dust storm. Jupiter has an environment capable of producing X-rays in a different manner because of its substantial magnetic field. X-rays are produced when high-energy particles from the Sun get trapped in its magnetic field and accelerated toward the polar regions where they collide with atoms in Jupiter's atmosphere. Like Jupiter, Saturn has a strong magnetic field, so it was expected that Saturn would also show a concentration of X-rays toward the poles. However, Chandra's observations revealed instead an increased X-ray brightness in the equatorial region. Furthermore, Saturn's X-ray spectrum was found to be similar to that of X-rays from the Sun. In our opinion, the described picture of geo and planetary coronas is similar to the picture of the solar corona. At the distance of 243,000 kilometers from the Earth, atoms and molecules are so far apart that they can travel hundreds of kilometers without colliding with one another. Thus, the exosphere no longer behaves like a gas, and the particles constantly escape into space. In our view, far ultraviolet radiation and X-rays are the consequence of UC fermion 3 with rest energies 3.7 kiloelectron volts self-annihilation. All planets and some observed satellites, Europa, Io, Plasma, Taurus, Titan, have X-rays in upper atmosphere of the planets, similar to the solar corona. According to whom, the characteristics of geocorona are similar to the characteristics of solar corona. The geocorona, made up of UC particles, resembles a honeycomb filled with plasma, including the ionosphere from about 60 kilometers to 1,000 kilometers altitude. The geocorona is a stable shell around the Earth with inner radius about 6.4 thousand kilometers and observed outer radius about 640,000 kilometers. The total mass of these shells is about 10 to the power 18 kilograms. At the distance of 640,000 kilometers from the Earth, atoms and molecules are so far apart that the outmost region of the Earth's atmosphere no longer behaves like a gas. X-rays and gamma rays are the consequence of UC particles' self-annihilation. They are going not only up and out of the Earth, but also down to the Earth's surface. According to whom, the characteristics of geocorona are similar to the characteristics of the solar corona. As the result of large fluctuations of UC particles in geocorona and their self-annihilation, X-rays and gamma rays are going not only up and out of Earth, but also down to the Earth's surface. In our view, terrestrial gamma ray flashes are, in fact, well-known gamma ray bursts. The spectra of them at very high energies can be explained by UCF1 and UCF2 self-annihilation. Lightning initiation problem can be solved by X-rays and gamma rays, which slam into thunderclouds and carve a conductive path through the thunderstorm. From this point of view, it is easy to explain all experimental results, which we will discuss with you in presentation 7. Conclusion. ALLATRA International Public Movement was founded in 2011 on basis of Ladoga International Public Organization. Today, participants of the movement are implementing a vast number of large-scale projects in different areas. The projects are being accomplished by the world's best volunteer experts from various walks of life who are not indifferent to the future of our civilization and who develop their professional and creative potential for the benefit of the whole humanity. We hope that room that explains Earth's environmental challenges to the best of our knowledge today will help ALLATRA to analyze their experimental results through the prism of room, perform new targeted experiments, and make reliable forecasts for the future of our planet. In our opinion, we should concentrate our efforts on investigations of the oceans and volcanoes which are responsible for the climate changes. Acknowledgements. I'm always grateful to academician Prokhorov and Professor Manenko, whose influence on my scientific life has been decisive. I'm eternally grateful to my scientific father, Paul Dirac, who was a genius and foresaw the future of physics in a new cosmology. I'm forever grateful to Nikola Tesla, who was a genius. I'm much obliged to Professor Korda for publishing my manuscripts in Journal of High Energy Physics, Gravitation, and Cosmology. I'm grateful to Nick Percival and Harry Ricker for valuable comments and suggestions which have led to an overall improvement of the presentation. Special thanks to my son Ilya, who helped me clarify model and improve its understanding. This is the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for attending it, for your attention. I'm ready for your questions. Bye now.
Well, many thanks once again, Vladimir, for that intriguing presentation. And it might be worth just spending 1 second just looking at the various aspects that you promised to deliver on. And in fact, you did deliver on, because I omitted to mention it at the beginning. You were saying that various aspects of the early Earth before the beginning of life on it, internal structure, of course, you talked about the 660-kilometer boundary that we named geomagma. You talked about internal heating, origin of the moon, expanding Earth, faint young star paradox, random variation of Earth's day length explained by geomagma activity, Sun-Earth-Moon interaction explained by influence of Sun's and Moon's magnetic field on electrical currents of charged geomagma, and as a result, Earth's day length varies. Yes. So, there's quite an amount of information there, and as I say, it's quite intriguing how this generalized model can be applied, very specific to the Earth on which we live. As Vladimir said in his conclusion there, we're looking forward to the application maybe to high energy physics, which is basically going to be the next high energy atmospheric physics, the upper atmosphere and so on, which he talked about. So he'll be homing in a bit more on that. Maybe just one question, if I may, just to start the discussion. I was intrigued again, about this business of maybe when the sun, we postulate, was, say, providing an output of about 70% of its current one, and the various gases were trapping the greenhouse gas, I suppose, we're trapping the energy to stop a cooling of the oceans or freezing of the oceans and so on. And you talked about the concurrence with maybe 67% of its output. according to calculations. So, in fact, as I say, it's very, very interesting that many of the results Vladimir has come upon coincide with experimental values which he hadn't studied. It just come later that there was a concurrence there. But my question is, what is your model of the evolution of the output of the sun? I mean, say we were talking about when it perhaps had 70% of its current value, but do you envisage that it sort of increased to that value, in some sort of linear way or something, or do you think it suddenly provided some energy because of the nuclear fission process?
First of all, there is no nuclear fusion process inside of the sun. The last time when I talked about solar system, I told you that inside of the sun, we have power, maximum power density, about 272 watt per cubic meter. It is so low that there is nothing to talk about any fusion. It's like, macroorganism metabolism. This is compared to apple, what is the average power density inside of the sun? Sun has so huge luminosity only because of a huge size of it. That's it. That's why no nuclear fusion, nothing to talk about. On the contrary,
sorry, what did you say? A huge seismic process rather than a nuclear fusion of hydrogen into helium?
No, there is no this fusion. There is none.
Yeah, I'm trying to clarify. You said that, yeah, there's no fusion. So what did you say instead? I didn't get the word. Did you say seismic?
No, inside of the sun, there is UC matter reactor that absorbing UC particles and self-annihilation of these particles. That's it. As for all rounded macro objects in the world, not only in solar system, in the world. That's it. That's why there is no need to any different radiation of the heat inside of moon, inside of Earth, inside of any macro object in our solar system. That's why the first answer is no any nuclear fusion. On the contrary, if you have suppose the helium or hydrogen inside of the sun, why it's going up the power of it? It should go down, because if you use all of it you have at the beginning, maybe it should go down, and nevertheless it's go up. That's the point. And in my model it's easy to explain, because the dark matter, not dark matter, UV matter inside of the sun is going up with size and luminosity that is proportional to the size squared.
Okay, and I remind everybody, probably unnecessarily, but Vladimir sort of modified his terminology. What he was originally calling dark matter is basically UC matter now. It's
yes, now it's UC matter. Sorry for my, old-fashioned dark matter. I pronounce once and forget about it. It's not dark. It's dark only with telescope, with your eyes. Yes, you cannot see it by your eyes, but you can see with gamma, with X-rays, with radio waves, with all this stuff around our visible spectrum.
But incidentally, the current conception of what they call dark matter, and maybe many dissidents shy away from, I think they would say it's not merely unobservable. It cannot be detected by other than optical means.
Because, usually standard dark matter, they can be part of gravitational interaction, and that's it, nothing else. This is my main point. The difference is, it's usually, because in 1977, it was the very first time when Nobel Prize laureates in physics, they proposed radiation of gamma ray and X-ray as a self-annihilation of dark matter particles inside of our galaxy. But nobody paid attention to it. I don't know why.
Well, I've been surveying the discussion and so on, the questions, and I think we'll see now in a moment. But I think perhaps the main part of our discussion will emanate from the green room, because there's some points being raised, or at least one major point. There's a lot of interesting discussion, so maybe we'll spend just a moment saying, have we missed anything? But if any of you on the social media want to propose a question, a more specific question, because I think there's a fear that I'll just go through and say, oh, they were discussing between themselves about the moon being captured and that. You're not asking questions. So if you have a more specific question, you might want to pop it in the next maybe 5 minutes just before we leave it. That'd be very good. Yeah. Okay. I think you probably don't subscribe to that, do you? Shockwave says the moon is Jovian in its origin. It comes from Jupiter. Do you have any view one way or the other? Maybe it's not something you're definite on, Vladimir.
I don't know about this model from Jupiter to Earth. What was the reason? I have no clue. And let me tell you, moon is have a round trip around our Earth. How it could happen? If with so high speed you will come to Earth, it should be huge elliptical trip, not a round trip around the Earth. No doubts about it, because all the circle might be raised by the object itself. That's it. Like we have our satellites, they're going around the Earth. They have the proper velocity, speed, and that's it. The same story with any capturing theories. If you have a comet, supposedly, you have a long elliptical trip, elliptical travel of this comet or asteroids around the Earth. It's well known, it's possible, but to capture moon, no way. It's against physics. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. So I find it hard to understand this, but I think he might be getting to something which could be of interest. It's a bit garbled, if I may say so. NASA did the model of Venus runaway greenhouse gas and could only get the temp up by 175 degrees. So 850 is an anomaly that can't explain, but we into the EU can. Venus is newly born from the. Sorry, it's rather garbled, but I don't know if there's anything there that.
Let me make one comment only in this time. Please remember about the pollution, rotational angular momentum. You cannot explain anything with moon, with Venus, with Saturn, with all these changes in direction of their rotational angular momentum and orbital angular momentum. That's why there is no way to explain the solar system as a whole system without rotational fission of the main object. And our main object is our sun. That's it. Simple like this. Please don't miss this pollution. I told many times, I have to repeat one more time. Only my model is in accordance with this law: rotational angular momentum, orbital momentum, angular momentum. You have no choice. You must think about it, how to produce this angular momentum, and only then you can speculate where it came from. I mean, this orbit, this travel, this trip, and so on and so on. But first of all, tell about the angular momentum, where it came from, to all these macro objects.
Actually, if you get a differential between the rotation rate of the surface and the inner core, as you talked about earlier, you get a precession. So, for example, if that is happening in the sun, you get a planetary precession. So that could, yes. What do you think of that?
It could be. You know what? I am not astrophysicist. I am cosmologist. My main idea, my main purpose is to provide them with the right hypothesis, right models, right iterations, right approach. And then if they will calculate the any astrophysical phenomenon by strong mathematics and all this stuff, I will be more than happy. I expected that astrophysicists will like my model and they will start developing new astrophysics based on my model only. It's a basis for a new physics. I cannot develop the whole building of new physics. It should be done by entire community.
Have you had any feedback yet, Vladimir, maybe from astrophysicists? Have you had
You
any
know what?
contact? Yeah, based
You
on
know,
what you published.
yes, I published a lot of papers. Even in this journal, I published 37 papers. Of course, I spread my papers to all these people, and I have some feedbacks from them. As I know from academia, there are 939 readers of my papers, and there are from 99 countries. I don't believe that there are physicists in 99 different countries. I hope that soon it will be 100. I like round numbers. That's why a lot of people, they have an interest. But unfortunately, the highest level physicists, astrophysicists, they don't care about my model. They believe in Big Bang model, in all this, they used to. They work with this equation, they work with this phenomena as standard physics. They should change their approach, their attitude, and to start everything from the beginning, from the new base of physics. I propose to people.
And I think we may come back to that in a moment, because I think James Keane raised it, and I'll be bringing people in the green room in a moment. If you just have a little patience, please wait with me. This, I don't know what this. He says, Dimensional Space said that in the book Holton or Sing Red, it says on page 100 that there are 7 redshifts known with great accuracy. I'm not quite sure what he's getting at there. Maybe owing to different physical phenomena like Doppler shift or tired light. I'm only guessing, but can you put any shed any light on that?
You can guess. I cannot even guess what he is asking for. Maybe
Right.
he will talk to me directly, and then he will
Yeah.
explain what he means,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
I
If
don't
you
have
wish
a
to
clue.
do that,
I'm sorry.
Sima Hepta, yeah, we can do that. No problem. I mean, I'm always happy that you're raising things, and if we don't understand or if we think we say it's garbled, just come back and we'll discuss it further. It's marvelous that you've raised it. Thank you very much for doing that. Okay, they're talking about Cornelis and fourth dimension and all that sort of thing. Let me see now. Okay. Nobody as yet has asked for a bit more information on maybe some of the revolutionary ideas, like that the sun's energy isn't produced by nuclear fusion and so on. Okay. Birkeland currents. Okay. I think we'll try to get pretty quickly to the green room, because the time is running out and we tend to discuss things a bit more there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. There's just philosophy about using mathematics or not. Most of these questions are just from maybe 2 or 3 people actually participating today. I don't know if that means we don't have that many people in the social media, or if we just have, some valuable people. I have a feeling today we don't have some people, some of the regulars maybe. I don't know. Yeah, again, he might have to clarify that a bit more, Shockwave. He says, we have observed high energy partials leaving the poles of our planet. I will with confidence say that phenomena is the same thing as we see from the stars and the center of galaxies jets from the. Yeah, it's more discussion maybe, but anyway, maybe just give Vladimir a bit of info about what's coming in case people come in further. Okay. Yeah. Sema's come back. If energy wouldn't be getting inside the center of systems, then all of the planets, etc., would be just cold. Have you any comment on that, Vladimir?
If you have energy at the center, there is transfer of this energy from the center to the surface. It's thermoconductivity. There is such a phenomenon in physics. That's why it cannot stay at the center only. It will be spread for the whole body, and it will be some difference in temperature inside and outside of this ball. That's it.
I wasn't going to put this up, but it's just, a bit of light relief. You're talking about the Loch Ness Monster made of UC particles. I don't think that's something you perhaps have looked at, have you?
About what? I'm so sorry.
You know this Loch Ness Monster? It's like meant to be this prehistoric monster in Loch Ness in Scotland that has ostensibly been seen once or twice. And he's saying it's made of UC particles. Well, this is a bit of speculation.
And what is the connection to my particles?
I'd like to know that. Anyway. Okay, well, what Theo might want to come back at a later stage on that. Anyway, at least we didn't ignore it. Okay, let me see. Fortunately, I think I'm getting to the end, and then more comments are coming in. So as I say, ladies and gentlemen, on the media, between now and the end of our discussion, if you have any questions, please just put them in. Question for Vladimir, and I can come to them. Yeah, okay. Cornelis has just said, he's responding to some of these comments. He said, in my view, all the forces are the result of the interaction of tension waves interaction within the ether. The difference is in geometry of the wave patterns that cause each of them. Right. Okay. Well, now, so James Keane has posted a question. It's fairly fundamental, but if something isn't clear, we might have to come back to it. He says, where does some 14 billion year age of universe come from? Do you support Big Bang beginning or what? Now, we may have touched upon that before, but because I think Vladimir doesn't. And he's also asking, what is 4D? So, Jim, with your permission, I'm bringing you up and wishing you a very good day. And let you put your directly to Vladimir, and in fact, anything else you'd like to discuss.
Well, again, thank you to Vladimir for his scholarship, research, and analysis in cosmology. It's very, very interesting, sir.
Thank you.
I have a suggestion, which I'll come back to, but just a few questions, if I may. What do you mean by 4D? In your introduction, you referred to the fourth dimension or 4D. What is that exactly?
4D, it's a four-dimensional space, ball, whatever, four-dimensional. It's a well-known abbreviation, sorry. Maybe I need to put one time dimensional. But in my first presentation, I talked about this four-dimensional. There is a fourth space dimension, because in Big Bang model, it's only four-dimensional, but it's not four-dimensional. It is three-dimensional theory plus some extra axis time axis. It's not 4-dimensional. In my case, it's a really 4-space dimensional ball.
So were you querying, Jim, whether it was meant to be time, for example?
Well, I was just wondering what it is, because it seems like a novel concept. And yes, time times c is considered to be like by some, this fourth dimension and various transforms and so forth of coordinates. But I wasn't referring to that. I was just referring to what Vladimir thinks the 4D is, the fourth dimension, and how we
Yes,
would
sir.
measure that or define it in a more scientific way, perhaps.
You know what? We are 3D human beings. We cannot measure the fourth dimension. It's impossible. We cannot do it. But what is important, let me tell you, in my model, you have a measure of this fourth dimension. You know what? Radius of curvature of our space, defined by parameter Q. That's why we cannot see, we cannot imagine how it looks like, but we have a parameter in my model that is the witness of the radius of curvature in the fourth spatial dimension. Q, this is a parameter. It's about 10 to the power 14. It's a so-named Dirac large number. That's it, simple like this. It is witness, but it's not measuring, it's calculating based on my model.
So that's 10 to the power 40 meters, or?
No, 10 to the power 40 multiplied on a basic size. 10 to the minus 14 means 10 in the power 26. This is the radius of curvature. And usually people
the radius of what?
Curvature.
Radius of curvature.
Curvature.
Curvature of this ball. This is the size of the ball in the fourth dimension.
Okay. Well, let's go on to something else, because I'm not sure I'm much better off now than I was before on that one. But well, let's go back to this curvature. So you're thinking that space is somehow experiences curvature, sir?
Our space in a nearby with distances less than this 10 in the power 26 looks like Euclidean space. You have no problems with curvature, because radius of curvature, as I told you, in fourth spatial dimension, it's about 10 to the power 26. It is 14 billion light years. What are we talking about? We can neglect in our real life, we can neglect with this number.
So are you saying, Vladimir, that space is approximately flat, but not absolutely?
Not approximately. In a nearby, I mean with deep distances from our Earth to any object less than 10 to the power 26 meters, you can calculate and count as a standard Euclidean space. That's it. There is no problem with it. There is no curvature around all macro objects as it is in Big Bang model. Forget it. There is no this
curvature. The hypersphere space means that there is curvature. Now,
yes, but radius of this curvature is 10 to the power 26 meters. It's a huge. You cannot even imagine this number.
Okay. Second,
you're breaking up a bit, Jim. Go ahead. You broke up there. We didn't hear what you said, Jim.
You referred in your. Let me start that question again. Where does some 14 billion year age of the universe come from in your work? do you support the Big Bang beginning, or how do we get this age of the universe?
It's two different questions. Let me tell you. First of all, on the Earth, we can measure only gravitational parameters. Age of the world, I calculated based on these experimentally measured gravitational parameters. That's it. Forget it. It's only calculations. And inside of these calculations, there are only three numbers: Planck constant, T as the gravitodynamic constant, and a basic size unit. That's it. That's why it is calculated based on one experimentally measured parameter. That's it. No calculation based on any other phenomena, chemistry, on any other phenomena in the world. It's gravitational parameter and direct calculation of the age, and not only of the age, of all cosmological parameters. You can calculate based on gravitational parameter only.
Okay, so as Ian mentioned, then you don't really support the Big Bang idea that everything came from a singularity some 14 billion years ago.
I don't support it. On the contrary, I am against it. It's obsolete. Okay. We must remove it already and forget about it. For 100 years, it's enough. We should do something new. Let me ask you the question about Big Bang model. If there is such a point, so named, initial singularity, show me where it is in our space, in our world, in our universe. Where is this point? Can you show me where it is?
Well, I'm not a supporter of that theory, so I'm not the right
No, I'm asking you a simple question. Do you know where it is? I'm not asking about support and not support. Where is the center of expansion? And in my model, let me tell you, there is a center of expansion in the fourth spatial dimension. It's a ball. It's a ball, four-dimensional ball. It is the center, and we have the center. And we don't have expansion of our world. We have what we have. We have spreading. We have movement of our bodies, of our galaxies, stars, and moons against each other without any center. We don't know where it is. It's a stretching process. You see the difference? I didn't put my center in our world. There is no center. All the points the same. No difference at all. Because center of expansion in the fourth spatial dimension. Radius of this distance to this point is radius of curvature. But we have a stretching. It's one point. The second very important point. We don't have this initial singularity at all. Why? Because all galaxies belongs to different superclusters. They belong to each supercluster. And main supercluster is about 1,000. That's it. We belong to Laniakea supercluster. 100,000 galaxies belong to it. They started their life from superclusters. They belong to supercluster. Like planets belong to our sun. The same story with galaxies. They belong to the supercluster. Our world, it's not Big Bang model. It is patchwork quilt of different main superclusters. And all the galaxies belong to their own supercluster. That's it. You see, simple like this. We have homogeneous, isotropic, medium. We have some macro objects, but they started their life in a different way. They have different centers for them.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for raising all those points, Jim. Because,
thank you so much for very interesting questions, because it's the main point of my model. And what is important? Don't compare. Don't try to compare one model to another one. It's a paradigm shift for cosmology. There is nothing to talk about one model, another one. You have to start from the very beginning for the main hypothesis I told you about. And the validity of hypothesis you can only confirm by the experimental results. What I'm trying to do every my presentation to show that my model based on the right hypothesis, because all the experimental results, including Earth, can be explained in frames of my model. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay. Well,
Thank you so much for good questions.
yeah. Okay. And I think maybe some of the drilling down, maybe because your system hasn't, for example, said, Vladimir, that the universe has always been around. There is a beginning. So I think we're cognizant of mainstream ideas, which, as you say, are quite different from your own complete paradigm shift. That they say, or people might say, well, goodness me, there's some similarity there. Okay.
Yes, but let me make a comment. First of all, there is the beginning and the beginning. One beginning, you have one point with infinite energy density and all the matter inside of this point. In my model, there is no such point. The beginning was very smooth. You have your fluctuation with a very low energy density, less than Euclid density, and it's going out with a new universe created matter. You didn't start your universe, your world, with all the matter inside. No. The main idea is continuous creation of matter by creator, universe. That is the source of our matter, continuously, not at once, at the very beginning, continuously. That's why beginning fluctuation, it's always the best physical approach. Why? Because even in our air, we have a fluctuations of density. We're used to it. We know that if there are some movement in some medium, immediately you have your fluctuations, more or less density. Even our sound we are talking with, it's the result of the fluctuations of the density in air around us. That's why fluctuations, it's the right beginning for physicists. And for mathematicians, it's good to go with some infinity, some mathematician approach. I don't know. It's not physical at all.
And I seem to recollect, sorry, Jim, but I seem to recollect that recently, very recently, we conceived of an advantage in getting you two gentlemen together, in that Vladimir's sort of macroscopic ideas, maybe married to Jim, your quantum microscopic ideas might be of benefit in looking at the whole model. So I don't know if you've progressed that any way at all. Well,
one suggestion that I might make is that since you say that you're not you're a cosmologist and not necessarily a quantum physicist, in terms of your training and expertise, I would just caution you about borrowing ideas from what you might read in quantum physics textbooks and so forth, to incorporate them into your theory and work and analysis, because some of those ideas might in fact be mistaken. And so,
okay.
That's just sort of a caution. In other words, your analytical ability seems to be just very, very, very impressive. And I just caution you about borrowing ideas, say, from quantum physics, which it could be, in fact, completely wrong. And so, in other words, for some of the processes like that you mentioned, like self-annihilation and volume rotational fission, some of us might be more happy just to say the physical process is a black box at the present moment, and we're just going to call it X or Y or Z and leave it at that, so that the listener can focus on your analysis of data, of such a wide range of data in the literature that you have analyzed and reviewed. You see my point. In other words, it could be that your analysis might get more attention if it were a little bit divorced from what might be considered black box mechanisms, where you just simply say, the mechanism itself is a black box, but it's a black box which is hypothesized to be consistent with the data as you have analyzed it. I don't know whether I'm making myself very clear on that. Perhaps I'm not, and I apologize if not. Anyway,
thank you so much for
Vladimir.
raising these questions. But let me give me my comment about quantum physics. First of all, I'm not expert in quantum physics. I am following classical physics only. I read thousands of papers. I have so much to do with classical physics, and I'm happy about it for 23 years. It's not yesterday. It's 23 years of my very hard work with classical physics. The second point, quantum physics. 100 years ago, it was some advantage of quantum physics, no doubts about it. But as for me, we must change the approach to quantum physics now too. Because let me tell you my first impression, it was a long time ago. We have quantum physics. We are talking about elementary particles. They have size much less than the basic size unit I introduced in classical physics. 10 to the minus 14 meters. That's it. Whatever we have less than this size, for me, doesn't exist. Because even space, time, and gravitation, we can introduce when we have the medium of the world. It's a classical physics, it's a classical notions, it's a classical parameters of this medium. The second point, when I learned, even when I was a student, this Schrödinger equation with something like x and t, I couldn't understand it. What does it mean? What kind of space we have for electron inside of it? What is the time at that time? I don't know. I have no clue. The next question, in quantum physics, we have the same parameters, R, C, A, T, as we have in classical physics. We don't have even one new term, one new parameter. How come? We use our classical physics when we are solving Schrödinger equations. But classical physics and classical mathematics, we cannot apply to them, because there are no infinite small, infinite big, numbers in quantum physics. It should be quantum physics based on finite mathematics, not continuously running with classical physics. That's why, and my friend Felix Lev, he developed such approach to quantum physics based on finite mathematics. But unfortunately, nobody wants to listen to him too. I'm so sorry.
No, okay.
That's why.
Yeah. Well, is that all right, Jim, for the moment? Thank you very much for raising all those fundamental points. I think it's concentrating our minds wonderfully. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for this question, and I expect that it will be a new future, not only for classical physics, but for quantum physics too. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jim. So I'll
thank you.
Thank you again. Now, we're coming to the end, actually. I thought we had plenty of time for discussion, but we're coming to the end. I see we have Nick and we have Cornelis in the green room. Does either of you gentlemen want to say anything? Or I think Cornelis's camera is not operative at the moment, so I can't actually see them. Nick, do you want to make a very brief comment, Nick, about today's presentation?
Yes, we have talked about cosmology and tons of empirical evidence in the first 5 talks. And now we come down to, focusing on the Earth and even on a lot of empirical evidence about geology. So it's very impressive how all of this empirical evidence can be tied into WUM. Just regarding Jim's question, maybe other viewers have the same thing, but just think of a 3D sphere and the surface being a 2D entity. When you go to a 4-dimensional sphere, that's the universe. And then the surface of the 4-dimensional sphere is our world. So hopefully that makes it an easier picture, or gives you an analogy to what you're talking about, the universe and talking about the world. And from that 4-dimensional entity, UC particles come into the surface and continue to expand. And just another comment, I don't think of particle self-annihilation as being particularly quantum mechanical. To me, I have a clear classical view of that process, as well as rotational volcanic eruptions. So I don't see the need to, get into or worry about quantum mechanics leaking into. Vladimir is focusing on purely classical model. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nick. If you okay, that's probably quite interesting and self-explanatory. But if you want to make any brief response, Vladimir, we're running out of time now, and I might just take you, Nick, if that's all right.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Nick, for everything you've done for me. Let me make one comment before the last words.
Okay.
Why we need hypersphere in my model? Because if you create a new matter in our world, it should be homogeneous. All the points must be the same. And you can do only in my model 4D ball and sphere around it. Or not around it, it belongs to it. That's it. Because in any 3D model, you will provide your new matter at the border of this surface, 2D surface on 3D ball. How to penetrate all this, what the speed should be of this new particle going from the edge of the ball to the center. You see the main problem, why we have to go to hypersphere to provide homogeneous saturation of our world with a new UC matter.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Now, Cornelis, with your permission, please, I'd like to get your very, very brief response to today's presentation on applying the principles of Womb to the Earth. But we don't have much time, so could you be very, very brief and maybe just raise one or max 2 questions? Very, very briefly.
Okay, well, I think can you hear me okay then?
Yes.
Okay, I think some of the comments I made earlier in the chat and stuff like that, I made a mention that I thought Vladimir's presentation was quite a bit of quantification and not so much the qualification of how events happen. How matter is created in the universe is a numerical situation. So he can put it in a mathematical form, but he assumes a certain particle, and that and builds from that mathematically. I'm looking for what process occurs for these transactions or conversions to occur. So that's more my area of interest. And as far as the hypersphere goes, I look at the 4th dimension more like there's actually 3 Euclidean dimensions: length, height, width dimensions. But I look at a dimension as more of a property, like a length and a height and a width is a property of an object. And the 4th dimension would be like a density, would be a 4th dimension or property. So when I look at space, it's the 3 Euclidean dimensions plus a 4th dimension of energy density within that space. And that's what I look at it. So I don't really see things on a sphere because the surface of the sphere is still a two-dimensional thing. So by looking at the volume and the density of the volume, you actually, to me, gets into a third conceivable, understanding it. We can understand the density quite easily. And so if you look at energy density, that's the way I look at it. So that's all I got. It's just I like what he's saying. It's a lot of quantization though, and the mathematics is far beyond me anyway. But the concept fits how things grow and change and create within that universe. Kind of fits in there. I think I suggested a book to Quest earlier in a chat that I thought I liked very much. It goes somewhat along my ideas, but it's and I can post it in the chat again. But it basically gives an idea of how you can basically build everything from a very simple framework of nothing more than a dynamic, isotropic, nonlinear, and elastic continuum, and that's I'm kind of tying what he's saying into that concept too.
Okay, fourth is
That's
energy density
basically what
per
I have
unit
to say.
volume. Yeah, energy density per unit volume. Okay, I just see you said that earlier on. Well, thank you very much, Cornelis. Thank you for that. And do you want to say anything very, very briefly before you summarize?
There are so many different cosmological models that I wish good luck to develop your approach to cosmology. That's it. Simple like this. Everybody has his own model. Hundreds of models right now exist in the world.
That's
and
true.
Which one is correct? This is the most important part. I'm trying to explain the most experimental results in all areas of classical physics. It's exactly my intention to show that it works not only for one phenomenon, it works for the whole world. This is my main activity and my point of the development of my model.
So is that sufficient to come to an end now, or do you want to say anything else just before?
Yes.
I'll just give you the floor for a minute and I'll remove myself just so if you want to say anything.
No. I want to tell the last word too. It was a comment. The last word is, we live on Mother Earth and we don't know too much about the existence of our life, of our Earth, what was the history, and so on and so on. And I expected, to be honest with you, that people will be interesting to find out what is the real life, what is the real phenomena in the world, not in the world, in our world, in our Earth. And I expected that people, they will ask some questions about the Earth. We know nothing about it. Unfortunately, it didn't happen today. It's a miracle for me. Why people, they live on Earth, they know nothing about Earth, and they don't want to know about this. It's a little bit disappointing, but whatever it is, it is. Thank you so much for people who express some interest in my model. You see, there was no even one question about the Earth. It was only common quotes about the new model and so on and so on. As I told you, any model, any theory always started with some hypothesis. What I told you about hypersphere, universe, creation of matter is the main hypothesis of my model. And validity of hypothesis you can prove only based on experimental results. There is a contradiction with experimental results, or there is none. All the existing cosmological models, they cannot explain this pollution angular momentum problem. That's why, for me, there is no way even to discuss them. First of all, answer this question, where they came from, this angular momentum, and then continue developing your new approach. But people, they don't care about it. This is my main point. That's why I wish good luck, not only to a new cosmologist, even to Big Bang model, trying to explain where it came from, this pollution. I will be more than happy, but unfortunately, 100 years passed and nobody trying to tell him about this, not
You've gone. It's silent. Can't hear you now. Is that the end? You've frozen, actually, Vladimir. Okay, well, perhaps that's the end. I'm not quite sure of that, but it devolves upon me formally to close the meeting, and I'll perhaps do that now. I hope I haven't cut off Vladimir, but he seemed to break up there, just freeze. But, I do quite appreciate maybe a slight surprise that there were more specific questions when we were dealing with cosmological ideas, in very distant parts of the universe than our own home here. But I would plead not to be dismayed, because I think those of you who have been, he's gone there. Those of you who I hope Vladimir hasn't gone, actually, but
something
are you
happened
there,
to my-
Vladimir?
sorry.
You're
You're
cut off.
without any reason.
Okay, but if that's all right, I'm just summarizing, and you'll be back anyway next time, so we can talk about that. So thanks very, very much. So what I was saying was, don't be dismayed, because stick with it. We have 2 more presentations, and even things that perhaps one might have addressed in regard to the Earth, we can address at the very end after session 8, when we're looking at a sort of a general assessment, a summary assessment of all the various parts that we've been through. I'm completely intrigued by how we've applied, or how Vladimir actually has applied this model to all the disparate parts of the universe. And even when he talks about not being a quantum physicist and being a classical physicist, he hasn't neglected to consider anything. And any question which has been raised in this area, has been considered. But as I say, we will be returning to any of these aspects. So if it appears that we're a bit partial now and we're finished with the Earth, we're not. No, by no means. Because the next time, as I say, will be on our upper atmosphere, actually, and the physics therefrom. So please continue to come in, despite the good weather I hope you're having during the summer, which we're not really having, but I'd say you are on the other side of the Atlantic and so on. So we'll have a little rest next time, and we'll come back in 2 weeks' time with Vladimir again for part 7. So I'd like to thank him, as usual, for all the sterling work he's done, and for having put up all his material in hard copy. I think some people may be asking for more copies of some of this information at a later stage. And also for addressing all the questions so manfully. I'd like to thank you all for participating. Look forward to seeing you again, and thank you very, very much, Vladimir. And I'll end the session now. So I wish you all a very good day.